Hi, Internet. My name is Alex. I'm an actor, writer, author, and wannabe filmmaker. And in this video, I'm talking about superhero world building and what kind of world the Heroic Ages falls into. So, both in and outside comics, there have been a number of ways to do superhero worlds. Due to their unplanned nature and the, thousands of contributors, DC and Marvel are what I like to call kitchen sink universes. This means that any origin and source for powers is up for grabs in their universes. Magic, super science, genetic mutation, divine empowerment, aliens, robots, cyborg, and dozens of others. Many comic universes are like this, partially because they're either constructed in the same manner or outright copying the big two. Invincible is an example, as is Astro City, Irredeemable, Justice Wing, and Image's kind of shared superhero continuity, which technically includes Invincible, as well as other titles that I've enjoyed, such as Dynamo 5 and Noble Causes. Um, the other kind is what I call a shared origin universe, in which every instance of superhuman abilities is tied back to one thing. So think Heroes, the 2008 NBC drama. Um, or wait, is it 2005, 2006? Whatever. Or the Fox X-Men movies where everyone is a mutant. Um, the novel series Superpowered by Drew Hayes is another recommendation and inspiration. And an example of a shared origin universe. So, in Superpowers, like the Fox X Men movies, there is a superhuman gene making everyone with powers either a super who can consciously control their superpowers and a powered one who cannot control their ability, or at least anyone with superpowers, still majority normal unsuperpowered people. So, any instance of science fiction phenomena such as robots is a result of the people with powers, not something that can happen independently, as is the case with Marvel or DC. The same is true of Worm by Wildbow, though I can't explain that one without spoiling some things. Other more obscure examples include the Renegade X series, the Cloak Society, and the White Knight and Black Valentine series. Just, throwing those out there. They're pretty good series that I have enjoyed in the past. And they're book series. But there's a secret third option, a hybrid of the two. Usually, with shared origin universes, the shared origin is very clear. There are a number of superhero novels, generally in the YA category, where, for instance, everyone with powers is the result of genetic manipulation. Um, but there are some universes that trick the audience into thinking it's a shared origin or into thinking it's a kitchen sink. So, for example, in Ian Thomas Healy's Just Cause universe, another big inspiration, the first book makes the claim that almost everyone with powers is a parahuman with the Musashi gene. But we soon find out that things like magic, deities, aliens, and other things exist within the universe, unexplained by science. The Legion of Nothing by Jim Zudaway, a web serial novel, reveals that if a character's powers aren't magic based, then they are the result of a superpower gene whose origins are a spoiler. So, those are hybrids in the sense that most powers come from one source, some come from some weird sources, but there's an opposite end to that spectrum where the shared origin is an explanation for the kitchen sinkiness of the universe. Um, in Marion G. Harmon's Wearing the Cape series, there were no people with powers until the late 90s or early 2000s when the event wiped out consciousness and electronics for a few seconds, and thereafter, anyone put in mental or physical stress has the potential to break through into superpowers. Those powers can follow superhero archetypes like flying bricks, energy projectors, psionics, but they can also follow mythological or magical archetypes. There are breakthroughs that create technology that is as indistinguishable from magic as a breakthrough who can make spells. Another example is the Villain Code series, also by Drew Hayes of Superpowers, as I mentioned earlier. In Villain's Code, there is a similar event though triggered by a specific individual in the 1950s, which opened some kind of gateway to aliens, magical dimensions, and super science that all grant some form of power, if you aren't born with the potential to just develop powers. The Heroic Ages is a hybrid, though for now I'm not revealing which side of the spectrum it sits on. In my universe, there is a claim to the origin of metahumans, those with powers, that the US government specifically champions. That everyone with meta abilities is the result of genetic experimentation by the Axis and allies of World War II. But there is evidence that explanation may be lacking. One thing about shared origins I just find funny is the idea that physics can be so different as to allow for superpowers, but that's all it allows. No laser guns or anti gravity machines, robots, aliens, magic, only mutants or supers or whatever. But it does make things a little tidier, doesn't it? So I chose a hybrid explanation. Anything can happen, but due to a specific reason, such as the laws of physics being different, um, you've got this kind of common explanation for superpowers, but there's enough variety that it doesn't feel like a common origin.